we empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more?
It starts with one.
From one employee to a team, collaborating with another team.
From one partner to their customers, to their customers' customers.
Expanding opportunity.
Earning trust. Protecting fundamental rights.
And advancing sustainability.
For our society.
Our economy. Our world.
That's the impact. That's the impact.
That's the impact each of us can have.
That's our collective opportunity.
220,000 employees.
Empowering 8 billion people on the planet.
We are in a new era of AI,
where we will be able to build as fast as our imagination,
unlock our creativity,
and innovate responsibly
as we take on society's biggest challenges.
Together, we can ensure these benefits reach
every country, every industry,
and every individual.
When we empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more,
we empower the world.
Good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful to be back here in Tokyo and in Japan. And, I was just thinking about this morning. Japan has been such an integral part of Microsoft's journey. Next week on April 4th, we'll celebrate our 50th anniversary as a company. And in fact, Japan, we've been in Japan for 47 of those years. This was the first place outside of the United States Microsoft came to. And so I wanted to first start by saying a massive thank you to everyone who has been part of that journey with us, our customers, our partners, and everyone who has worked at Microsoft Japan over the decades. And we're really thrilled to be here today to talking about essentially the same thing that we started 47 years ago, which is as a platform and partner company, we always come back to what are the platforms that we can create so that others can then create more technology on top of those platforms to improve the lives of all citizens of Japan, all companies and public sector in Japan. And so to me, that is essentially the mission of our company, and it's great to be able to talk about it. Every time I've come back to Japan, I first came here during the client-server era, then the web. Subsequently, I had the opportunity to be here at the very beginning of what became the cloud era, and now, of course, with the AI era. It's always helpful to ground oneself in the forces that are, in fact, shaping these new platform eras. This time around, we describe them as scaling laws. We call them laws. They're actually empirical observations, very much like Moore's law, where you had the doubling of compute power every 18 months. Now, with this deep learning revolution, we are starting to see essentially these pre-training scaling laws that double the intelligence capability every 6 months. And then on top of that, we now have these test time compute scaling laws of recent, right? It always happens in technology where you have one S-curve building on another S-curve and they compound exponentially. And that's what you see now. And in fact, the doubling of capability is happening perhaps every 3 months. So it's just tremendous to see this malleable resource called intelligence, whose prices are dropping by half every 3 months as a new commodity. And the question is, how do we convert it into output that is value add, right? That's really the opportunity of the AI era. Now, the formula I think about for whether it's a company, whether it is a country, is this tokens per dollar per watt, right? So if you think about capability, the intelligence capability that you can build in the most efficient way, both for what you invest in terms of dollars, or more importantly, how you use power, right? If you sort of think about that, we've had that means you really want to go for optimization. And that optimization, we've had several breakthroughs even of recent. And as you have, and the optimization comes both because of the hardware advances, but more importantly, the software advances. If the hardware advance gives you 2x, software adds maybe 10x, 100x sometimes of optimization or performance on top of it. And that is what leads to what is another observation, which is the Jevons paradox that people talk about nowadays, which is fascinating to see that whenever you have a commodity that is dropping in price and you have elastic demand, your demand goes up. And that is essentially what is likely to happen with compute and intelligence going forward. Now, all this power manifests in three fundamental breakthroughs that are going to change the contours of computing. The first is the user interface. With these multimodal models becoming more and more capable, much more natural, you're going to be able to speak to it, it's going to be able to see the world and interpret the world. It's going to basically take text, images, video, input and output, and change pretty much every interface of every application, every browser, and across every operating system and every device, right? That's essentially what's going to happen. Now, the second thing is you're also getting these rich capabilities around planning and reasoning. So it's just not input and output, but you now can plan, you can think ahead, you can reason, and then you can even give it more sophisticated long-term memory and context so that it can be grounded, right? So intelligence that is grounded in a given context and also the memory of what the past interactions have been. So that is the three capabilities that I think are going to have a profound impact in the full tech stack. And that's what's leading to building out of this rich agentic web. Just like we built the web, this time around we're building the agentic web for individual users, for organizations and teams, for end-to-end business processes, cross-organizational agents, just like anything that you built in the previous era with an application or a website, you're able to now do with agents and how agents communicate with each other. Now, all that's wonderful, but for us at Microsoft, it's about being able to realize the power of all this technology and prosecute our mission. Our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. It's not about just the technology, it's the power of the technology in the hands of people and the institutions that people build so that those people and institutions can achieve more. That to us is what is core. And in order to do that, we are really helping drive transformation both across consumer and enterprise. So in consumer, for example, we think AI will reshape pretty much every experience. How I research and search, how I seek out information and news, how I entertain myself with gaming, for example, or even how we shop and do commerce. All of these things today that I go to a browser or a website or an app on my mobile phone, all that is going to be transformed with the power of agents. Similarly, every organizational experience, right? Every digital transformation outcome that we've been talking about for the last 10 years is going to be transformed by AI. Employee experience, what we do with customer service, what do we do with our end-to-end business processes, and most interestingly, how we innovate. Right, the time to innovate and the scope of innovation, whether you're a drug company or you're a financial services company, both of those will be profoundly impacted and changed for the better. And so these are the two transformational effects of AI that really we seek. Now, to make that possible, what we at Microsoft are focused on is building out three platforms, and I want to use the rest of my time today to just talk about these three platforms. The first is Copilot. Now, with Copilot, the best way to conceptualize what we're trying to do with Copilot is to think of this as the UI for AI. Right? We want to introduce Copilot into the existing applications, into the existing browsers, into the existing operating systems, so that you can start using it in your daily lives, and then start having a conversation. Then you go on to assign it tasks. You will also use more sophisticated autonomous agents, and then those agents will come back to you for instructions and notifications. Right? That's why we think the UI layer for AI is going to be most critical, even in the age of very autonomous agents, because those agents will come back to notify us and take our instructions and our permissions as they move around, as they go do their work. Now, the thing that we are doing is building both a consumer Copilot as well as Copilot in the enterprise. But I wanted to give you a flavor for some of these multimodal capabilities and how they manifest in our daily lives by showing you Copilot in consumer. So let's roll the video.
Guess who's dog sitting? Which celeb does he remind you of?
Oh, he's totally one of the Chris's. You know, the one with the friendly eyes and that megawatt smile.
Nailed it. Obviously superhero material.
For sure. And his superpower? Puppy dog eyes.
He's begging me for walkies. Where's good around here?
I've got just the thing. Check out these awesome dog parks nearby.
So this is like that companion you have, like you had perhaps the browser in the past. You can even conceptualize this as these new intelligence browsers that you're going to use all the time. Like, in fact, I have my Copilot set to my iPhone action button. When I'm commuting, I'm able to talk to it. And in fact, I consume all my podcasts because I essentially use the voice mode on Copilot to have a conversation with the transcript of a podcast that allows me to get through podcasts faster. Or when I am on my PC, I use Copilot Vision to be able to see the screen and tell me stuff about what I'm seeing. So these are becoming daily habits for us, like the browser is. So now that's sort of a new modality. But one of the other things we're doing is also bringing Copilot to all of the applications that you currently use. So in M365 Copilot, one of the things that we have done is brought Copilot to Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook, what have you, so that you can then have Copilot with you as you're going about your work. I mean, if, for example, take someone preparing for a tumor board meeting. Right? If you're a doctor preparing for a tumor board meeting, it's a high-stakes meeting because you want to be able to ground even the agenda on the case histories. And the amount of time you want to spend should be based on the exact case that's being discussed. And then when you're in the meeting, say you're in a Teams meeting, you want to focus on the patient and the case versus being distracted taking notes. So therefore in Teams, you take these AI notes with high fidelity for you. And so so when she comes out of that meeting and she wants to now, take the meeting notes, take it into Word, and then create a PowerPoint slide deck because she's a teaching doctor, because she wants to go teach. Right? Take something as simple as a daily workflow for a very high-stakes workflow, which is around tumor board meetings, and here you have the way to transform it using AI and Copilot. Now, let's take it one more step further. You always have, with these new platforms, new work artifacts and workflow. For me, that is pages. For example, I'm always thinking with AI and collaborating with my colleagues. That's kind of my new workflow. So I go in and use Copilot in M365 to be able to retrieve information, charts. Let's say I'm creating some kind of a sales report or a finance report or what have you. I get all the data from both the web as well as what is available inside of the organization. And then I promote it immediately to my pages. You have this many-to-many relationships between chats and pages. And inside of pages, I can share it with my colleagues. So my colleagues in real time are collaborating with me on what I am doing with AI. And in fact, AI is right there even on pages to help me further refine the report. Right? That's the new workflow. Just like in the past, you created a spreadsheet or a document, you're going to be creating these pages with AI and collaborating with people. Now, we don't stop there. In fact, with Copilot Studio, you yourself can start building these agents. Right? Just like you used Word to build documents or you used Excel to build spreadsheet, our vision is every person will be able to build thousands and hundreds of thousands of agents using Copilot Studio. And it's as simple as being able to go to this tool. Let's say I want to build a field service agent. What you do is you give it an instruction that you are going to be a field service agent. You then ground it in some data. It could be SharePoint data. It can, in fact, in this case, be a Dynamics CRM data. And so you then have created essentially a full field service agent, which, by the way, is available essentially as a tool inside of your M365 Copilot, right? So that's the simplicity of the model. Now, all this needs to be grounded in your data. And in order to make that possible, first, we are bringing the entirety of the web index with all the compliance and security that is needed inside the enterprise. Right? So you have the full web index, and then of course you have the most important database inside of the company, which is the database of underneath Microsoft 365, right? It's the people-to-people relationships, their work artifacts like documents, projects, all of that richness is now available, and the rest of the enterprise data in Dataverse, in Fabric, all comes together to help ground the M365 work and workflow. Now, we are seeing tremendous impact, right? Ultimately, using Microsoft 365 Copilot is to drive organizational productivity. Inside of our own company, we have double-digit growth, for example, in how we resolve customer service cases. We have 20+% growth in our marketing conversion rates. Sales efficiency, right? We are having higher sales per salesperson because of it, something like 10% of it. IT has fundamentally transformed all of the HR self-service by seeing multiple, strong double-digit growth. So these are all very tangible return on investment that we are seeing, and then we see this across the entire customer base. In fact, right here in Japan, we see tremendous, adoption of these products. That's one of the most exciting things is, unlike perhaps any other era, the diffusion rate of this technology is fast. In fact, of the Nikkei 225, 85% of them are already using Microsoft 365 Copilot. And just this morning, I had a chance to even talk to the folks from Sumitomo who are talking about not only what gains they're getting inside the enterprise, but more interestingly, they described how they're going about doing it, right, by creating Copilot champions, evangelizing how to use these tools so that every employee of Sumitomo can, in fact, achieve more using these tools. So it's fantastic to see the ground up, not only just the availability of the tools, but essentially a movement to change the productivity frontier. Now, we're not stopping there. In fact, just yesterday, we launched what I think are some very phenomenal features, new product announcements as part of Microsoft 365 Copilot. The first is a researcher agent, right? This is bringing that sophisticated reasoning models essentially to M365 Copilot. So you now have access to a researcher, right? Just imagine inside your enterprise, you now can get a researcher assigned to every employee who can do any research for you. They can create any market research, M&A research, some financial report. They can go use the web. They can use all the internal data, multiple agents to be able to create a very sophisticated research report for you. And not only that, we also created a data analyst agent. Again, using the same chain of thought, reasoning, and reinforcement learning, we've now created a data analyst. It's like giving every employee inside the enterprise a data scientist, right? Just think about what will happen inside your organization if everyone had access to a fantastic data scientist to go along with all of the work that they're doing, right? You can take any two pieces of data and give it to the data scientist, and it'll find the insights, the relationships, the correlations for you. And then we also added those deep reasoning models to Copilot, right? So when you're wanting to build your own agents, like I built the field service agent, now you can do the same chain of thought and RL-based reasoning in any agent you build for your business process. So these are all capabilities we just announced, and to show you some of this in action, I wanted to invite up on stage Callie, who's my colleague. Callie, take it away.
Thank you, Satya. Recent advances in LLMs have brought us into a new reality where AI has remarkable powers of problem solving and reasoning. We've taken one of the latest models, OpenAI's O3 Deep Research, and optimized it for work to create two new agents, analyst and researcher. Let's start with researcher. I'm here in Copilot Chat, and you'll see the researcher agent on the right. Using advanced orchestration in Copilot and deep search algorithms, researcher references the work data you use every day, like your emails, your meetings, files, chats, and more. Let's say I work in product development and we're entering a new market, so I need help developing a product strategy for our expansion. I enter my prompt and researcher gets to work. The first thing it does is ask clarifying questions, just as a seasoned colleague would. I enter my response and it'll use those answers to move forward. You see here, the agent takes my prompt, understands the task, and conducts a plan to reach an answer. You'll notice it's reasoning over all of my data in the Microsoft Graph, not just one file. Here, we see its chain of thought reasoning in real time. You see it working through the problem. It builds an understanding of my product lineup, references my recent meetings, and even pulls in industry updates from the web. Now, this whole process takes a couple minutes, so we're going to jump ahead to the result. Just look at this thorough response. It mirrors something you'd see from a researcher on my team. And now I can edit in Pages and bring my team in to collaborate. What we just saw was built on your work data and data from the web. But researcher can also be connected to third-party data via connectors and can even leverage other agents like Sales Chat to connect to its rich data and its logic. Now that we've put together a great product development strategy with researcher, let's turn to analyst. We built analysts to think like a skilled data scientist, so you can go from raw data to insights in minutes. I have this really messy, highly complex data set. You can see thousands of rows, multiple tabs across customers and their monthly revenue, and none of this has been cleaned or contextualized. Usually, to make sense of this data, I need to pull in my colleague who knows Python. But let's try the analyst agent. I don't have to spend tons of time writing the perfect prompt to get exactly what I'm looking for. I'll just ask Copilot to help, and it'll help me come up with a way to easily learn and visualize my customer data. You'll see it takes my question, understands the task, and constructs a plan to reach an answer, like we saw with researcher. It also identifies the Python code it may need to complete the task, just as a data analyst would. It can take any complex data set, make sense of it, and then execute Python code to reason through the questions you have about your data. If I want to see more about its thought process, I can always click in and see its chain of thought reasoning, as well as the Python code it's running in real time. Now, analyst is already on to the final step, and it starts working on that visualization. Here, I've got the answer I was looking for, and I've got a great visual to share with the team. Now, with researcher and analyst, every employee has access to expertise on demand. Back to you, Satya.
Thank you so much, Callie. hopefully you get a flavor for the power that is going to be with all of us. The ability for us to come into work, have M365 Copilot, with every employee having access to world-class research capability, world-class data science and data analytics. You can imagine what it will do to empower us and the scopes of what we can achieve to drive the economic productivity inside of our institutions. So that's the world that we have to look forward to. Now, I want to switch to the next platform, which is the Copilot and AI stack. And this is so that it's not just about what we are building, it's about the full applications that you will build on top of pretty much the entirety of the stack that we use to build, for example, M365 Copilot or our consumer Copilot. Now, it starts with our vision to build Azure as the world's computer. And this is where we now have 60 plus regions, and 300 plus data centers. Right here in Japan, we have 2 regions, both in the East and the West. And I'm really thrilled today to announce that we are expanding both the regions with latest HPC and NVIDIA GPUs in order to be able to make more of this AI capability accessible to every developer, every organization building applications in Japan. And talking about that expansion, we're taking a full systems approach, which is everything from the data center to the silicon to the system software that spans compute, storage, network, such that we can optimize it for performance, right? As I talked about, ultimately it's about performance per dollar per watt, and it requires you to take a systems approach. It's not about any one piece, it's about everything coming together as one optimized stack for the next generation AI workloads, and that's what we're doing with Azure. And once you have the infrastructure, the next big consideration is data. Because you want to be able to train on your data, you want to be able to fine-tune on your data, you want to be able to ground your responses, your predictions on your data. And so that means all the data you have needs to rendezvous where your intelligence infrastructure is. And we're making that possible by first optimizing all of the data estate we are building, right? Whether it's Cosmos DB, whether it's SQL or Postgres, building them as cloud-native databases that are ready to work with your LLM infrastructure. That's what we're doing. We're also enabling things like Databricks. Azure Databricks, in fact, yesterday announced how they're bringing more capabilities, including the Anthropic models to their infrastructure. We are enabling Oracle, we're enabling Snowflake. So that means that no data should be left behind, and we want to be able to bring all the data so that it can sit right next to your intelligence layer so that you can build these applications. Now, once you have infrastructure and data, you're now ready to build your applications. Like with every platform before, right, you need an app server, right? When the web happened, we had an app server for building web applications. That's essentially what we're doing with Foundry. With Foundry, what we have done is to build out all of the services required to be able to fine-tune, to be able to do evals, to do AI safety, to do observability. We have access to all the models. In fact, we have access to 1,800 plus models out there, open source, closed source, the frontier models, as well as small language models, so that you now have the combination on that frontier of efficiency for different weight classes, for different performance evals, for different domains. You have all the models that you need in order to build your applications. So you have your infrastructure, you have your data, you have your app server, and then the last thing you need as part of your AI stack is world-class tooling. In fact, Microsoft, as you know, 50 years ago got started as a tools company, and we remain a tools company. Our goal is to make sure between VS Code and GitHub, we're building the best tools. And then, of course, today with GitHub Copilot, we're able to build capabilities into these tools so that every developer can go be successful in their project. In fact, Thomas Domke will come later and give you all of the details on the innovation that we are doing in this space, which is super exciting. And one feature that I love, first of all, GitHub has got great momentum in Japan. We now have 3.5 million developers in Japan, growing at 20+%, which is great to see the momentum building. And our goal is to keep expanding, in fact, what it means to be a developer, because with especially something like GitHub Copilot, we can bring more and more people to become software developers and to help really move this application frontier forward. Project Padawan is one thing that I'm very excited about, right? Just up to now, we've been able to code completions, we have been able to chat to get information on coding, we have these multi-file edits, we now even have agents, but Project Padawan is where you have effectively AI doing the pull request, and then you can essentially assign it, or you can essentially assign your PR to a Copilot, and Copilot goes on to create the spec and the plan and the execution of it, and then comes back for essentially pull request approval to you. So that is the frontier of what happens with the SWE agents going forward. Now, we have fantastic momentum right here in Japan with all of this technology across all of the industries. You see all of the logos here. And I had a chance this morning to meet with many of these developers. In fact, one of the most inspirational things I was able to see was what ISIN has built for the hearing impaired. Right? They now have built, using some of the Azure AI services, an application that has been downloaded by more than a million people. In fact, I had a chance to meet with one of the users who was profoundly thankful for all of what this technology has enabled in her life, and it's fantastic to see that. I also had a chance to meet the students of a secondary school who were the hackathon winners of the Tokyo Board of Education's hackathon. It is great to see them explain how they were able to use Power Apps to build the applications and games that they are going about learning and building. I had a chance to meet with a startup, Turing, which is taking a very sort of straight shot approach, which is a full stack level 5 autonomous driving application and model that they're building, and working with several of the leading OEMs in Japan. And their goal is to be able to, by the end of this decade, to have level 5 autonomous driving capability that's world class right here in Japan, and to be able to sort of talk to them, and their sort of roadmap was fantastic. And then I also had a chance to meet the team from Japan Airlines. They showed me their application that they're building that's already being used by 30,000 people in the airline. And what they've done is take even the latest advances in small language models and brought it to just on-device compute, so that you can even have offline intelligence when you're not connected to Wi-Fi or the internet. So it's just great innovation. Let's roll the video to give you a flavor for what they're doing.
JAL の使命は世界で最も選ばれ愛されるエアライングループになることです。全世界450カ所に就航しています。お客様に対する CX の向上、あるいは客室乗務員のエンゲージメントの向上につながるものと思います。
現在のレポーティングシステムはテンプレートに沿って我々が一から書き上げる形をとっております。レポートを作成するときは急病人があったとき、また飛行機が大幅に遅れてさまざまなリクエスト、質問がお客様からあったときです。 JAL AI レポートとは AI の力を借り、私たちのレポート作成を補助してくれるツールとなっております。何か事象が発生した際には JAL AI レポートを立ち上げます。質問をされますので、そちらに答えます。そういたしましたらば、我々の提供するものは終了となり、AI の生成が始まります。
今回プロジェクトといたしましてはマイクロソフトさんの5.4を使わせていただくということで富士通さんですとかヘッドウォーターズさんと連携をしてプロジェクトを進めさせていただいております。その 5.4 であればスムーズに情報を作り出すというんでしょうか。これまでなかなかファインチューニングというのはお金がかかってやるのが難しいというところがありましたけれども、このオフライン環境で使えるSLM というのに非常に我々価値があるというふうに考えております。
初めて JAL AI レポートを使った時に感じたことは、もうただ嬉しいという満足 今までは40分から1時間ぐらいレポートの作成に費やしておりましたが、その時間が20分から30分ぐらいもっと短くなると感じております。
業務やシステムの中心において全く新しいビジネスを作っていくことができると思っています。人と AI がどのように融合して使われていくのかというところを考えると本当にワクワクする気持ちです。
So it's really great to see, it's great to see all of that, innovation and how again, these platforms are becoming so accessible for organizations of all types to be able to go after some of these high ambition AI workloads and projects on their own. Now, the third platform I want to talk about is Copilot devices, right? Up to now I've been talking about all this innovation that is in the cloud, right? With all these models built on top of very sophisticated cloud infrastructure. But similarly, there is a real change happening at the edge. With Copilot devices, we now have, with the silicon capabilities of these NPUs, something like 40 TOPS available to you, right? That example of Japan Airlines running a local model is just keep going, it's going to keep getting better and better and better. And that's what Copilot devices enable you to do. So that means an entire new class of applications will get built with new types of verbs like generative fill and click to do and super resolution, right? These are the kinds of features that you will start to expect of your browser, of your every application you use. And that's what we are enabling with Copilot PCs, to give you a flavor for all of the innovation that is happening on Copilot PCs. Let's roll the video. So those are the three platforms we're building, and the innovation that people can do on top of those platforms is what I think is the opportunity for everybody here. Now, of course, all of these platforms need one thing, which is trust. Because as technology becomes more pervasive in our lives, ultimately building trust by design is going to be super critical. And that's where we are taking a principled approach with our Secure Future Initiative work, with the principles around privacy, principles around AI safety being built into the products is super important. So that's the key, which is you've got to build it right into the engineering practice of actually building any AI workload or any application. And to that end, we are building many, many capabilities, confidential computing, building in capabilities like, for example, the grounding API in Foundry, right? I like that a lot because, after all, one of the challenges with any AI model is hallucinations. How do you check for hallucinations? To be able to have AI help in checking for hallucinations. So those are the kinds of real-world innovation and services and tools that one needs in order to be able to build more robust, trustworthy applications. And now, just yesterday, we were also excited to announce AI agents to really help us defend the cyber estate, right? So one of the things that we are faced with is cyber attacks. all the time. This is one of the biggest challenges we have, and now we can use AI to help even defend. And these agents, for example, will do phishing triage, will give us threat intelligence alerts, will in fact ensure that the conditional access policies that you are enforcing are actually being met. It's not just the agents that Microsoft is building, but it's also all the agents from our partners. So this is even taking that approach of a platform company and a partner company and bringing all of that, because ultimately security in particular is a team sport. It's not about any one company. So we are very excited about all the progress being made there. And I want to close out though by talking about sort of what comes next, right? If you think about all of this AI capability, what does AI help us do? In some sense, it reduces the search space when you're trying to discover a new drug, a new chemical, a new material, right? In terms of fundamental scientific breakthroughs, AI is like the emulator for nature. But one of the ways we can, in fact, get a simulator for nature is to have a real quantum computer. And that's been our dream for the last 20 years. We've been working on what does it mean to build a utility scale quantum computer. It requires us to have a physics breakthrough which allows us to have stable qubits with error correction properties, and that's what these Majorana zero modes represent as a physics discovery. And of course you have to translate that into fabricating a real chip. That's what we have done with Majorana 1, and we have several other steps to take in order to make these quantum computers real. But we're also taking the software layer and layering it on all the quantum computers that are even available today, whether they're ion trap computers or NIST computers, so that we can start in Azure using these quantum computers with some of the logical error correction and languages like Q#, getting ready for what is going to be, I think, the next big revolution in systems, which is quantum. And so to give you a flavor for it, let me roll the video.
Introducing a breakthrough in quantum computing, the Majorana 1. A new approach that ignores the limitations of current models to combine the power of millions of potential qubits all working together to solve unsolvable challenges in creating new medicines, entirely new materials, and helping our natural world. All on a single chip. The Majorana 1.
So let me close out where I started. For us, our mission is simple. It is to empower every person and every organization in Japan to achieve more in this age of AI. This has been true for the last 47 years with all of the tech platforms that we have been able to bring and see the innovation in Japan flourish. And our hope is that this time around, we can in fact build on it and achieve a lot more together. Thank you all very, very much. Have a rest of the great conference. Thank you.
We find ourselves in a new era. One where access to information is access to expertise. From the farm to the lab, from the boardroom to the classroom, this new generation of AI is for everyone, everywhere. Now anyone can save time with a personal assistant.
이를 통해서 공간과 비용과 인력의 제한을 없애서 생산성 향상에 크게 도움이 될 것으로 생각합니다.
With GitHub Copilot, I'm saving about 50% of time, and that's time that I can use to do other innovative things.
Anyone can access a personal tutor to learn new skills.
I think this technology has the potential to completely reimagine the way every single student learns in the world.
It's like a mentor. Siemens Industrial Copilot takes existing code and describes what it does in natural language.
This is a new way to analyze with a personal coach.
今までは40分から1時間ぐらいレポートの作成に費やしておりましたが、 その時間が20分から30分ぐらいもっと短くなると感じております。
Within fraud, we have to move quickly, accurately, and in the ethical way. This technology is a fraud fighter's dream.
AI is unlocking creativity for us all.
Descriptions are so detailed. In my imagination, I can paint the artwork.
Our virtual assistant is providing all the beauty of history, of art, of nature to help everybody better understanding all the hidden gems of the city.
And we are just getting started.
You can't use AI without security. It's security, 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 and then you get to use AI. So we are working with the government to make sure we use AI responsibly, securely, and safely. 何よりも安全性です。セキュリティ、セキュリティ、セキュリティ、そして AI が使えるようになるのです。私たちは政府と協力し、AI を責任を持って安心して使えるようにします。最重要的是安全、安全、安全、安全，同时确保 AI 能够被安全使用。我们将与政府合作，确保 AI 能够负责任的、安全的使用。Vous ne pouvez pas utiliser l'IA sans garantir la.
おはようございます。こんにちは。マイクロソフト日本代表の津坂美希でございます。今日は大勢の皆様お越しいただきまして本当にありがとうございます。サティアについて一日 AI の最先端を体感していただければと思います。今お見せしたビデオは実は去年の秋受けたインタビューで当然最初のところは英語でやっておりましたけれども11月頃に Azure のエンジニア2人に30分かけて私の声で3カ国語のデモビデオを作ってもらいました。それから数ヶ月後実はもっとすごくテクノロジーが進んでいるという動画を次にご覧になっていただきます。どうぞ。
ホアンさんとステラさんはすでに日頃から毎日 AI を活用していると思いますけど、どんな感想をお持ちでした？
저희 법무부에서는 매일 계약서 체크 에이전트를 사용합니다.
契約をレビューしたり、重要なドキュメントを検索したりする際には、コパイロットを使用して契約をより迅速に処理します。人的知識が必要な業務により集中することで、業務効率がさらに向上します。
Utilizamos agentes y análisis financiero a diario. 私たちは日常的にエージェントと財務分析を使用しており、財務チームは定期的にデータを収集及び分析するために多くの時間と労力を費やしています。今では財務分析エージェントを利用すれば、ワンクリックですぐに結果を得ることができます。
ということで、数ヶ月後には30分かかっていた翻訳業務が一瞬の間、ほとんどリアルタイムで、私がチームメンバーで日本語で語りかけられると、彼らは韓国語、スペイン語で話してますけれども、それを日本語化で、私は日本語で見ることができるという、この Teams のインタープリターエージェントという新しいファンクションを今社内でトライしているところです。ちょっと自慢させていただきますけど、先ほどサティアが申し上げましたように、日経225の 85% の皆様にはすでにコーパイロットを使っていただきありがとうございます。でも自慢しますと、私どもマイクロソフトジャパンの社員は世界でトップクラスにこのコーパイロットファンクションをめちゃくちゃ使い倒してます。毎日毎日使って、こういう特にこのトランスレーションファンクションというのはグローバル化をされたい企業様にとってもものすごいチェンジメーカー的なファンクションじゃないかと思います。先ほどマイクロソフトのサティアからも話がありましたように、すべてのプロダクト、まずは GitHub コーパイロット、今ご紹介した365、Azure、セキュリティと全部に入っておりますけれども、もう一つだけビデオをご紹介します。実は先週増田さんという我々のエンジニアにお願いしたビデオなんですが、先ほど見ていただいたのは結構人間が入って、例えばつい昨日先週発表しましたコーパイロットリサーチャーとかアナリストというものがありましたけれども、これは自動的にコーパイロットスタジオがエージェントを通して、私は何もノータッチで作業をしてくれるという、デモ動画です。 マイクロソフトの本社で実はブログがございまして、毎日英語でガンガンコンテンツが出てきます。それを全部見ることは不可能です。でそれをじゃあどういうふうに収集してどうやってまとめてくれるか、日本語化してくれるかという短いビデオです。ご覧ください。マイク入れて、はい、すいません。はい、今さらっと漫画動いちゃいましたけれども、本社のブログ、それをコーパイロットスタジオが毎日今まで人が作業していたところ、自然に1週間働き続けてくれて、最終的にはこういう形で収まってくれて、想定内の QA、そして弊社の SNS の Viva Engage というものに毎週月曜日投稿するというプロセスを完全にオートメーションした事例です。皆さんもきっとルーティンに毎週やられていること、毎日やられていることで、自分が手を動かさずやってくれて、その分浮いた時間を違うことに使うということができることをイマジネーションできるかと思います。ではここでせっかくなので、AI の進化が進む中でいろいろな企業組織の発表も先ほどありましたけれども、さらに AI をもう本当に業務にしっかり使われて先行投資されている皆様に生の声を聞かせて皆さんに聞いていただきたくお招きしました。第一生命の住野様、ソフトバンクの藤永様、そして東京都の宮坂副知事です。拍手で皆さんお迎えください。ではよろしくお願いいたします。
はい、お願いします。
じゃあ早速ですが、住野様、第一生命はお客様と提案する対話型の、AI ボットの、位置、または営業職員をサポートするソフィーなど、本当にいろんなところで AI をもうすぐ活用されて実務で動かしているというふうに聞いてますけれども、第一生命の中で AI の取り組みや狙いをどういうふうに使っていくかということを考えているか教えていただけますでしょうか。
はい、ありがとうございます。そもそも大きく分けていろんな分野で AI っていうのは取り扱えると思ってるんですけども、一つは、お客様との接点ですね。もう一つは全く逆で本社の、例えば保険会社ですので保険引受部門、壮大な業務プロセスを抱えたバックオフィスがあります。そちら、あるいは営業職員が活動する上でのさまざまなサポート機能ということなんですけども、狙いという意味では広く共通して申し上げられるのは、当たり前ですけど生産性向上、効率化ですね。でただそれにとどまることは当然なくて、社会がこれだけデジタルとか AI と共に生きる、そういう社会になってきている中で、我々がそれに追いつく、それどころかさらにその先手を打つということで、新しいサービスであったり収益化の機会を我々が創出していくということが当然視界に入ってくるわけです。そうしないと我々が社会の中でしっかり価値を提供し続けることができなくなるっていう、切迫感、期待でもあり切迫感でもあるということですね。そんな中で我々この3年間で AI に関する開発案件はマイクロソフトさんに比べると圧倒的に少ないと思うんですけど150件ほどあって、その中で生成 AI に関する開発案件は50件ほどあります。その中で一つ例示いただいたのがデジタルバディという、AI アバターなんですけども、これは我々の営業職員がお客様とコミュニケーション対話をする中で、例えばいろんな紹介質問があった場合の対応であったり、対話の記録を取ることでそれを要約したり、あるいはそこから潜在的にあぶり出されるさまざまなお客様の感情を分析して、さらにそれを活動のガイダンスとして生かしていく、あるいはコミュニケーションに関するさまざまな文章の作成なども入ってきますので、そういった形でかなり広範な範囲で営業職員の活動、あるいはお客様への対応をサポートする、そんなことを今開発中でございまして、1年後来年4月には全国展開する予定なんですけども、これが代表的な事例です。
はい、楽しみにしております。今おっしゃったように歴史が長い古い保険業界、金融業界でも皆さんいろいろ AI 活用に、努力されていますけど、今後皆様が考えている将来、未来というのはどういうふうに見ていますか。
そうですね、ちょっと逆説的なのかもしれませんけども、我々人様の人生であったり命であったり生活をお預かりしたり、あらゆるお困りごとに対するソリューションを提供するのがなりわいですので、AI がさまざまな分野でこれから威力を発揮するのは間違いないんですけども、逆にそれによってより際立たせられる人にしか提供できない価値っていうのを、これを大事にしたいと思ってるんですね。したがってAI に任せられることは徹底的に任せきって、その代わり人にしかできないような価値提供を我々は追求していくということかと思います。具体的にそれは何かというと、共感力であったり、あるいは人それぞれの人生観とか、あるいは信念さえも揺るがしかねないようなポジティブネガティブ両方のライフイベントに対して寄り添ってソリューションを提供していく、これは少なくとも5年10年はまだいくら生成 AI でも難しいのかなと。したがってエージェントとエージェントの世界はもうすぐ到来するとは思ってるんですけども、それでも対応できないところをより AI の技術の推移を駆使することで我々としては組み合わせの妙という形でしっかり提供することが、少なくとも大生命グループという組織の目指していきたい姿かなと。それが社会課題の解決につながることも間違いないというふうに自負しております。
ありがとうございます。おっしゃる通りにAI はあくまでもコーパイロットで、最終的には人間がヒューマンが入るというところかと思います。どうもお話ありがとうございます。次にソフトバンク様、ソフトバンク様は私どものジャパンパートナーオブザイヤー2024年を受賞された会社でございます。自らも本当に AI を最先端でいろんなところで使い、開発段階の GitHub からコールセンターまでいろいろ使われていると思いますけども、まずは今日ソフトバンクの取り組みについて宮川社長からビデオメッセージをいただいてます。ご覧ください。
マイクロソフト AI ツアー東京にご参加の皆様、こんにちは。ソフトバンクの宮川でございます。本日は残念ながら都合がつかず、現地へお伺いすることができなくて大変申し訳ありません。さて、この度マイクロソフトパートナーオブザイヤーのアワード表彰をいただきまして大変光栄に思っております。これもマイクロソフトさんやご来場の皆様とともに AI 改革を推進してきた結果であると嬉しく思います。さて、マイクロソフトさんの代表的な AI ソリューションといえばコパイロットですけれども、当社ソフトバンクでは法人部門を中心にこのコパイロットを活用しております。その機能と進化の速さには日々驚かされるばかりであります。これからもまずは自分たちの業務でコパイロットを使い倒して、そのポテンシャルを最大限引き出していきたいと思っております。そして当社のコールセンターでは Azure を活用した AI の実装を進めております。すでにチャットの問い合わせなどで使っておりまして、オペレーションの効率化はもちろん、お客様対応の品質向上にも大きく貢献しております。他にも数多くの業務で AI の活用が進み、その効果を強く実感しております。
はい、という宮川さんのお言葉でした。本当に効果の実感ができるっていうのが AI というテクノロジーかと思いますけども、現在の取り組みを踏まえて今後 AI をどのように向き合っていくかというお話を今日お越しになっている藤永様から一言お願いいたします。
はい、ありがとうございます。まずはですね、パートナーオブザイヤー受賞させていただきましてありがとうございます。現在ソフトバンク株式会社グループではですね、M365 コーパイロットが約2万人で GitHub のコーパイロットが8000人と日々どんどん増えていっておりまして、
もっと言っても全然 OK です。
はいビジネスの中にどんどん溶け込んでいます。SE なんかはですね、特にそのお客様ごとに使用書なんかが違うんですが、それをお客様ごとの言葉に直してどんどん理解を深めていくようなエージェントを作ったりであるとか、あと難解な RFP ですね、お客様からのリクエスト、これをもう読み込むだけで時間がかかってたのをちゃんとコーパイロットを使ってですね、要約をしてその時間を短縮してより良い提案書を作るというようなところをですね実践的にやってます。でもう発表もさせていただいておりますが、マイクロソフトさんとは、私たちのコンシューマー向けのですねコールセンター こちら今6000ブースあるんですが、この6000ブースをですね8割削減しようというプロジェクトをやらせていただいてまして、まずはチャットボットで、もうすでにサービスをオープンさせていただいてますが、応答いただいたそこのチャットサービスですね、使っていただいたユーザーさんほぼ 100%、ご満足いただけるという結果も出てます。この夏前にはですね音声による対話をも始めさせていただいて、より正確な応対ができるような品質を心がけてやっていこうかなと思っております。
ありがとうございます。最後に、もちろん AI はビジネスのみならず社会を大きく変えられるテクノロジーかと思います。その中で東京都様は本当地方自治体の中でも最先端にデジタルトランスフォーメーションに力を入れられて、民間出身でテクノロジーバックグラウンドのうちの宮坂副知事にお尋ねします。はい、まずこの公益性の高い行政の分野では AI はどのような役割を果たしていられますでしょうか。
はい、今都庁の職員もM365 にこの1月に全員移行しまして、
ありがとうございます。
で、その上でコパイロットを使うっていう環境を作って今やってるっていうところです。で、私はやっぱこれは本当に行政におけるもうゲームチェンジャー絶対なると思うんですよね。やっぱ AI はもう奇跡だなっていうぐらいやっぱりそういうの日々やっぱり非常に感じていて、でマイクロソフトさんのビジョンと行政ちょっと似てるなと思ったんですけど、で先ほどサティアさんが全ての人をエンパワーメントするって話あったじゃないですか。で行政ってやっぱりそれこそ全ての人なんですよ。特に生きづらい人とか苦労を抱えている人たちってやっぱり都内いっぱいいらっしゃるんですよね。その人たちにやっぱこの AI のテクノロジーの奇跡をこう届けることができると、やっぱそのボトムラインで生きてらっしゃる方の水準がやっぱ上がりますよね。そこは僕は相当これは使えるところがやっぱ多いかなと思っていて、まだ具体的に何が使えるかにまだ正直試行錯誤なところはあるんですけど、この技術は必ず中でしっかり作っていけるようにしたいなと思っています。
ありがとうございます。一東京都民としてもすごく興味深いところなんですけれども、AI を活用してこれからどういうふうに東京都様、その AI を展開してどういうふうに使うかちょっとお話を聞かせてください。
そうですね、例えばでやってるのは当然都民に向けていいサービスを行政サービスを届けるために都民の声聞かないといけないですよね。でも先ほど今までは電話で聞いたり、ウェブフォームで聞いたりしたんですけど、やっぱたくさん来ると処理しきれないんですよ正直。1400万人いらっしゃいますから。でこの前それを思い切って大規模にブロードリスニングと言われているやつですね、大規模に都民の方にどんな東京にしたいのかとかわーっと聞くと2万件以上来たのかな、それやっぱり今までだともうそれ読むだけでも大変だったんですけどAI を使って上手に分類したりとか、またいいのがその分類をするプロンプトをやっぱり公開できるんで、どういうやっぱそこはブラックボックスになっちゃうんですよね。どういうふうにその情報をこう分類したのかっていうこと自体が意思が混じってしまうんで、それもちゃんと公開をして、我々はこういうふうにして意見を全部まとめましたとかですね、やったりとかしています。で、そういう時もすごく AI のパワーはすごいなと思いましたし、もう一つの事例でいうと今Azure の環境の上にあるAI の開発環境を今内製で作ってるんですよ今ね、はい、内製で開発環境を作って、その上に東京都内に62の区市町村があるんですけど、60の区市町村が一つずつまた作ると、コストも大変ですしノウハウが横展開できないですよね。
そうですね。
やっぱりできるだけ公共財のような AI をやっぱ作りたくて、今62区市町村それぞれでなんか AI のラグとか作ったらなんとか区で作ったやつをなんとか村でも使えるみたいな、そういうお互いに相互利用できるような統合的な開発環境を作らせてもらっていて、いよいよそれが稼働し始めたところです。
はい、楽しみにしております。どうも熱いお話ありがとうございました。私からマイクロソフトとしての日本での取り組みについてもう少しだけご紹介させてください。データセンターへの4400億円の投資という話で、さっきサティアがこれからもっとやるぞというふうに宣言してくれましたし、もちろんリスキリングであったり、あとは去年11月に日本で初のマイクロソフトリサーチセンターも設立しました。またもちろんサイバーセキュリティ、これはもう本当に日本の政府の皆さんと日々一緒に連携をし強化しておりますが、 AI とセキュリティの人材の教育というところでサイバースマート AI プログラムというのを開始しています。政府の機関の皆様やインフラ企業様に無償で提供しています。もっと知りたい方はこの QR コードをご覧ください。ということで最後に、 地球上のすべての個人とすべての組織がより多くのことを達成できるようにするというのが弊社のミッション。おかげさまで50歳になったマイクロソフトジャパンも47歳になったところです。皆様のコーパイロットとして皆様の成長をサポートし、日本の成長に貢献し続けたいと思いますので、引き続きどうぞよろしくお願いします。ではこの後も AI ツアー1日ございますけれども、 AI 筋トレをして改めて素晴らしいお話を、シェアしていただいたパネリストの皆さんに御礼申し上げたいと思います。皆様拍手でお送りください。ご清聴ありがとうございました。